Yo, what's going on guys? SpaceKong here. So in this video I'm going to be showing you a DK Magicka tank. Now the idea of this build is to make it as simple as possible and letting you do DPS at the same time. So this build works for beginners and veteran players. So I mean, if this is your first time ever starting a tank, then this is the one you're going to want to build. It's very easy to use. I mean, a lot of people do go stamina and things, but I don't know. I quite like Magicka. I quite like making Magicka tanks, and it works really well. It's got great resource management, and it's really simple to use. Like, it's really the least complicated build out there. It's also got a little fail-safe move, so if you run out of resources by some chance and your health's depleting, you can pop a potion and use your ultimate at the same time, and you'll be back up to full resource. Because, well, you have, obviously, if you use a tri-stat potion, that's going to give you a lot of resource anyway. But then there's a Dragonknight passive ability, which gives you your health, magicka, and stamina back based on how much ultimate it costs to use. So, yeah, it's going to give you quite a lot back. So, like I said before, this is a DPS tank. It's great for taking out mobs using dragon talents to hold them down. You're using your flame staff abilities like your wall of elements and that as well. Just putting down a lot of AoEs. It's really fun to use. I wasn't actually going to put this build up, but then I had a few people in the comment section asking for me to show this build, because I put it as like footage in the background. So if I was just talking about updates or something, I'd have done a video of me doing a dungeon, and I put this video in a few times of like doing some dungeons with this tank, and a lot of people actually want me to show a video on this tank, so here it is anyway. In fact, this is the first tank I ever made, so it's taken me, you know, a little while to adjust it and make it just right. I mean, the armor is still, some of it is actually scaled to Vet 14. That's to give you an idea of sort of how old this tank is and how long I've been using it, and I haven't even needed to update the armor. So if you know, if when you create this build and you're at Champion 160, it's going to be even better than this tank. Like, I haven't needed to upgrade the armor at all. It still works perfectly fine. But anyway, I'll get to it. So let me show you my stats fully buffed. Okay, so first off, I should probably explain that there's two different buffs that this character does. There's the offensive buff and then there's a defensive buff. The reason why I separate the two is because to do them all at the same time and maintain the buffs is, okay, it's a little bit difficult, but I mean, I tried to make this build as easy as possible, so I separate them. So you have your defense, so say if you're against a boss, and then you have all your defensive ones, but if you're against mobs, then you go with your offensive buffs. So this is the defensive one. Okay. So yeah, I said I'm a Magicka build, and you only need 20k Magicka for this to work, so you don't need like 40k or anything like that. Maximum health 27k, this is with food and everything, and that's more than enough, and I will get to that later on. As for the stamina, I mean, yeah, 15k, again, that's more than enough. I mean, a lot of people always want a lot of stamina, and they think that that's the way to go, and the best tanks have 40k stamina, but that's not exactly true. As for the spell and physical resistance, yeah, they're at 43k each, which is higher than the hard cap, which basically means that they're at the maximum they can possibly be, which again is great, and another reason why you don't need a ridiculous amount of health, because you're not going to be losing a lot. Okay, and now for the offensive buff. You won't need them both on at the same time, so here we go. Right, so molten armaments, a light attack. Okay, so the spell damage is almost at 2.2k, and the weapon damage is almost at 2.3k if you're rounding it up, that is. So, even without the defensive buff, you still have 27.5k spell resistance and 26k physical resistance. So, you know, you're not going to go down anytime soon, and you've still got quite a lot of health as well. And I know a lot of people out there was probably going to say, oh, yeah, but for a DPS, you're going to need at least, I don't know, 3k weapon and spell damage or 4k weapon and spell damage. But then bear in mind that primarily this is a tank build. It's a hybrid with tank and DPS, so the DPS is secondary. It's not going to be, you know, best in slot or anything like that. It's just to help the team get forward in the dungeons. Because a lot of dungeons, I mean, yeah, a lot of them you don't even really need a tank, so you can go 3 DPS or something. But if you're going to go for a dungeon like White God Tower, then this build is perfect. mainly because there's going to be a lot of portal closing and a lot of tanks just run 2 sword and boards as opposed to a sword and board and destro, which essentially means you can close the portal and you've got enough damage to do so. But also you're a tank, so at the same time you're buffing your allies and debuffing the enemies. And I know it sounds like there's a lot to do, but this build is really simple. Okay, so I've shown you the stats, now onto the actual build itself. I have 64 points into the Magicka attributes. And for the Munderstone, I'm using the Serpent, which gives me stamina recovery. Now for the gear I'm wearing, I'm using 5-piece of the Footman. And I know it's only Champion 130, but bearing in mind I did say that this is a very old build and I've been using it since pretty much the beginning of the game. It's my first ever tank. But essentially it's going to give you a lot of physical and spell resistance. Even more if you're going to go for the Champion 160. But this build works so well, even if you don't have Champion 160 gear, you know, even if it's not all best in slot, it still works really well, and I haven't even needed to change the gear yet. As for the actual enchantments, yeah, they're not the ones I put on there, they are actually just the default ones. And for some reason, with this gear, you can't actually change it. I mean, you probably can with the 160 gear, now it's all been changed around, but at the beginning of the game, yeah, you couldn't actually do that. You're probably realising by now that all the armour, you know, all the traits and everything being prosperous is pretty bad, but, you know, it still works, so if it works, right? For my other 5-piece set, I'm using the Hist Bark, which, you know, gives you health and also gives you 20% evasion chance when you're blocking. Which I know it doesn't sound a lot, but it is a lifesaver. For the head and shoulder piece, I'm using the Bloodspawn Pauldron. The reason for it, I mean, obviously it gives you stamina recovery, but it's not just the only reason why I use it. It's pretty good as far as tanky monster sets go. So the main reason I want it is for the physical and spell resistance that you get. Alternatively, you could go with the Malibeth set. However, I did make this staff gold. Reason for that is for the extra DPS. For consumables, I'm using the Orzagar's Reg Frothgar, if that's how you say it, I don't know, but essentially gives you max health and magical recovery. Alternatively, if you're going for more of the DPS, then yeah, you could go for the max magicka as opposed for the magical recovery. Okay, so now onto the skills. On the front bar, we're running a sword and board, and this is going to be primarily for tanking. So we're going to start off with the Igneous Shield. So essentially what it does is it grants your allies a 4k damage shield and grants you a 8k damage shield. But that's not the only reason why you want it. If you're going to heal yourself, you're going to want to pop this just before because it increases your healing done by 25%. So essentially you've got yourself a nice little safety net. So say if you get knocked down to a low amount of health, you pop this and it gives you a 8k damage shield as a reinsurance that you're not going to get wiped out straight away. And then in that time you can heal yourself with the next skill and you also get a 25% extra healing done. Green Dragon Blood. Now this is your main heal. So draw on your Draconic Blood to heal you for 40% of your missing health. So say if you get knocked down to a low amount of health and you pop your Igneous Shield, and then by using this you gain 40% of your missing health, and whatever health that is, you also get an extra 25% because you've popped your Igneous Shield just before. But that's not all, you also get Major Fortitude and Major Endurance, which increases your health and stamina recovery by 20% for 23 seconds. So essentially between this and Igneous Shield your health is going to shoot up. However, if you're going to go in PvP, then this skill will kind of be a bit useless. But this is mainly a PvE build. Hardened Armour. Now this is where you get your physical and spell resistance from, essentially giving you 5.2k of each for 20 seconds. The 10% of your max health damage shield is pretty nice as well. I mean, it's only for 3.5 seconds, but I guess it helps when you're taking damage all the time anyway. But that's not all. It also does a little bit of damage, not a lot, but it does 663 magicka damage to any melee attacker. Absorb Magic. Now this is only level 1 and you don't really need it to level up anyway. It's mainly there for its passive skill. You don't need to pop it, you really don't need to use this skill at all. Unless you're in PvP, then yeah, this skill is fairly decent, but essentially you want it just to be there, just slotted, and what it does is it gives you an 8% reduced cost of blocking and 8% reduced damage taken when you're blocking. And you probably guessed this next one, Ransack. This is your taunt. Every tank has this taunt, unless you're using Inner Fire, that is. But essentially it does physical damage and taunts the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds. But that's not all, it also affects them with Major Fracture, reducing their physical resistance by 5.2k for 12 seconds. And you also gain Minor Resolve, increasing your physical resistance by 1.3k for 12 seconds. So yeah, it's a pretty decent move, there's quite a lot. And as for your ultimate, you're going to need to use Magma Shell. This is your fail-safe, so say if you run out of health and you're about to die or anything, you can pop your Tri-Stat Potion and then use this ultimate at the same time, and because of your passives you also gain all your health back pretty much, all your health, magicka and stamina, just for using this move alone with your potion. But essentially it limits your enemy's incoming damage to you basically to 3%, so you're pretty much invincible, you're not going to die with this. It's the ultimate failsafe, and it deals flame damage to your enemies. Not a lot, but 595 is, it's fairly decent. But you're also helping out your squad, because when you activate this skill, it also gives all your allies a damage shield for 100% of their max health for 9 seconds. So basically it's a win-win for everyone, and it gives you enough time to get all your health, magic and stamina back. I mean, you'll get it back anyway just by using your skills, but it also gives your team a chance to recuperate. Now for the DPS bar, you're going to need to use Igneous Weapons for your buff. It also buffs your allies as well with Major Sorcery and Major Brutality, giving all of you increased weapon and spell damage by 20% for 36 seconds. Now when you upgrade this, the time limit will last even longer because it's only on level 1. But yeah, essentially you'll want to buff up everyone. So now you're all buffed up, the next move you're going to want to use is Choking Talons. Now this roots all the enemies down so they can't move. It's great for mobs, and that's not all, it also does damage over time and gives them minor maim, reducing their damage to you and everyone else done by 15%. So yeah, you're not going to be taking much damage either. And they can activate a synergy which deals 4k magicka damage. You're also going to want to slam down your next move, Blockade of Fire. This is going to do 1k damage to every target every 1 second. And the reason why I chose this morph is for the bigger radius. So essentially with the AoE, you're going to want the biggest radius to get all of them. Flame Pulsar. Now this move is amazing. Yeah, it does 2.5k damage to every enemy within the blast radius. But it also grants Minor Mangle, which reduces their max health by 10% for 33 seconds. Which, if you do the math, is a very powerful move. Elemental Drain. You're going to want to cast this on bosses. Basically, what you're doing is affecting them with Major Breach, which reduces their spell resistance by 5.2k for 21 seconds. But it's also great resource management for you, because every one of your light attacks with your flame stuff is going to restore extra magicka to you. And the same also applies to your allies if they're using Flame Shock or Frost damage. For the DPS ultimate, you're going to be using Standard of Might, essentially giving you a massive AoE damage. So along with the damage over time, you're also causing Major of the Fire, which is reducing the effectiveness of healing done to them by 30%, and you're also reducing damage done to yourself by 19%. There's also the Shackle synergy, which grants 6k flame damage to any enemy within range. Just going to show you a quick run through with all the passive skills I've unlocked. Okay, as for the champion points, 73 in Arcanist and 73 in Mooncarf to give you equal magicka and stamina recovery, as you're going to be using both. $41 into Shadow Ward, reducing the cost of blocking by 13.4%. 73 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 20%, or 20.1%. 78 into Elfborn, increasing damage and healing dealt by spell criticals by 21.1%. Elemental Expert, increase your Flame Frost and shock damage by 12.2%. You're going to need 93 into Spell Shield, and then you're going to want 94 into Heavy Armor Focus. Essentially what I was doing was splitting it 50-50 between them two. And that's it for the stats. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always guys, have yourselves a great day. Peace!